Welcome to the new YouTube channel. If you haven't already done it, hit the subscribe button to follow us all season long for updates and content. So happy that you're here. It's going to be a great year. Welcome back to the Richard Sherman podcast, and we have Detroit's very own favorite son, Mitch Eisenstein, their first playoff win in 30 plus years. Mitchell, how you feeling?
Oh my goodness, Rich. My heart is still racing from last night, to be honest with you. I was at the game. Ford Field was electric. I mean, there's nothing like kickoff. You know, you hear Lose Yourself by Eminem. They pan to the suite, and there he is, man. That crowd was hype. Dude, this is something we haven't witnessed in 32 years, Richard. I mean, I know I already told you offline, but in the suites, they were giving hats away. You know, not Super Bowl hats, not NFC North or NFC champion hats, but simply Detroit Lions playoff hats. I mean, it's a rarity for us to be in the playoffs, let alone host a game. And Richard, they won it. I could not be more happy. Let's start with the Lions because I'm fired up, man. I could not wait to get on here with you and chat about this team. Huge win. Matthew Stafford comes back into town, and we can kind of finally close the chapter on Matthew Stafford. This is Jared Goff's team. Richard, what are your thoughts on these Detroit Lions beating the LA Rams?
Well, Stafford did not make it easy for you, Mitchell. For all those asking, hey, Stafford, could you just lay down and give us this one? No, he didn't do that. He threw 25 of 36 for 367 and 2 touchdowns. Puka Nacua went off 9 catches for 181, and it wasn't enough to beat Jared Goff and these Detroit Lions. The football gods made up for everything that happened in Dallas and said, hey, Detroit deserves 2 home playoff games. And by golly, you're going to get them. David Montgomery ran the ball well. The ground game wasn't doing what they expected it to do, what they've done all season, but they stayed at it. They kept pushing it. They ran the ball 22 times between David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs did some damage in the air, 4 catches, 43 yards. But your boy, the Pro Bowl, the All-Pro, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 7 catches for 110. Sam Laporta, Mitchell, he's not 100%. He's not healthy, but he did enough. He got in that end zone when you needed him. For some reason, they had a D lineman guarding him. And anytime you see that, what are we talking about? This is barbecue chicken. You better find him. And Jared Goff did. Aiden Hutchinson, your guy. Was he the right pick, Mitchell?
I think so. He's got short arms, though, Rich. He's got short arms, but he looks like the right pick.
Mitchell, T-Rex had 2 sacks. And guess what, Mitchell? They have another home game where they're favored by almost a touchdown, Mitchell. They've only had 2 playoff games in the history of their franchise. Is that true, Mitchell?
I don't know about home play. It's been a long time, Rich. A long, long time. I mean, let me paint a picture for you. In Ford Field, they have, you know, I know you're used to Seattle Seahawks hanging these Super Bowl banners and NFC West banners and all that stuff. They've got 5 banners in the middle of their stadium saying world champs, 1952, 1953, 56, 57.
There he is.
But guess what? We got a 2023 NFC North champ right next to it, Richard. This is rare territory for these Detroit Lions. This is a brand new Lion team. This is Dan Campbell, Rich. Mm-hmm. This guy came in here talking about biting kneecaps, changing the culture of this team. He's done just that. This team is so fired up to play for this coach. And you know what's crazy about it, Rich? They're a very young team. They're flexible with their cap space going into the offseason. Who wouldn't want to play for Detroit? Who would not want to play for this team? I mean, I feel like these guys are going to be lining up, taking hometown discounts to stay here. Any player, any vet that's wanting to compete, I'm sure is going to want to come here too. But Richard, I want to talk a little about Matthew Stafford because that was the talk of this game coming in. This guy came in, Mr. Professional, and it's weird watching him on the opposing sidelines slinging that ball. Holy shit, is that man good? And I mean, he was creative, blitz in his face, sidearm throw, dime. Like I mean, Richard, 367 yards. This is not uncommon anymore against this Detroit secondary. Detroit secondary needs some help desperately, but they're somehow finding ways to win games. Puka Nacua, like, holy shit, man. This guy is like the perfect combination of Cooper Kupp and Golden Tate. The guy is run after the catch skill like I haven't seen. I mean, he's a rookie. How does a guy like this slip through the cracks, Richard? I mean, how in the world does no one else spot this talent?
Mitchell, I don't know. He was a 5-star and a 4-star, depending on which website. Coming out of high school, went to UW, transferred to BYU, got kind of lost in transition. Didn't run the best 40, but man, can he play? And his GPS is tracking this year amongst ball carriers in the National Football League. He was 6th of all ball carriers overall. I mean, so again, the 40 doesn't determine everything. Football speed is different. But, I mean, Mitchell, I can't lie. I cannot. I was terrified for Detroit because the worst possible thing was looking like it had the potential to come to fruition. Matthew Stafford, who gave so much to the city of Detroit, so much good play, so many great memories, but he never brought him a playoff win, Mitchell. And he's going to come to town when you have your second home playoff game in the history of your franchise and try to take it away from Detroit. Mitchell, if Stafford would have took that win away from Detroit, because Matthew Stafford never won a playoff game in Detroit, and he still hasn't. And if he would have chose to win his first one for an opposing team, Mitchell, I don't think he makes it out the stadium. I don't think he makes it out the stadium, Mitchell. I don't know. That was going to be my worst nightmare.
I'm right there with you, and it certainly looked like it was heading that direction. I mean, the Lions came out hot, scored 21 points right out the rip, and then they went stagnant in the second half. Both teams adjusted, played really. What was a shootout in the first half became a defensive battle in the second, and it was all heading that direction. Matthew Stafford heading down the field, and then Dan Campbell gets ballsy, accepting a holding call or whatever it was to push him out of field goal territory, ultimately resulting in the Lions picking up a huge first down. Richard, I don't think in the history of professional sports there's been a more fair trade for both teams than the Matthew Stafford-Jared Goff trade. Matthew Stafford goes to the Rams. They immediately win a Super Bowl. Jared Goff comes to Detroit, revitalizes his career, turns this franchise around, gives the team all the building blocks and assets they need to grow. And now it's Jared Goff's time in Detroit. Richard, what was crazy to me is when Matthew Stafford took the field, people booed him. I wasn't too surprised about that, but what surprised me was the love this city gave to Jared Goff. All you heard in that stadium was chants of Jared Goff, Jared Goff. And I can only imagine what that would feel like, having 65,000 screaming fans yelling your name. And he backed it up, man. 22 of 27, 277 and a touchdown against his former team. Pay this man, Richard, first off. Pay this man. Make him your franchise quarterback for the foreseeable future. And let's go on a run with this thing, Rich. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL playoffs, is bringing you an offer that'll make the playoffs electrifying. New customers can bet $5 on any game and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code Richard. New customers can bet just $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code Richard. The crown is yours. You played against Jared Goff enough. Did you ever see this coming with him?
Mitchell, I did not. But I can say once Sean McVay got a hold of him, he did play better football. He did look more like the number one pick he was expected to be. When he's standing upright and he has time in the pocket, Mitchell, he can dissect. He can get the job done. He can play the game at a high level. When he starts to get hit, that's when all bets are off. And again, Mitchell, we're going to fast forward a little bit, because you guys got another home game coming. And Jared Goff has earned his money. He's won a playoff game for Detroit. But can he win a second? Because that's what'll get the statue built up in Mitchell. He's earned his money, but can he get the statue? Because Todd Bowles and this defense, this Tampa Bay defense, Mitchell, they're going to bring pressure. He's going to see at least 6, maybe 7, 0 pressures in this game. They're going to get home a few times. I'm sorry to say it, Mitchell. They're going to get home. And their corners, their safeties, they know they're going to have to cover for a little while. And offensively, they're not the greatest offense, but they got Mike Evans, Mitchell.
Yep.
And Mike Evans can make this go. And if you leave him one-on-one, which I hope Aaron Glenn knows not to do, it will be a long day for Sutton and whoever else you put out there on Mike Evans. So got to have a plan for him. But if Aiden Hutchinson can get home, hopefully they line him up opposite of Tristan Wirfs because Tristan Wirfs is an absolute beast. But Detroit can win this game, Mitchell. Detroit can get – what did you ever see yourself saying in the near future? Detroit can make it to an NFC championship game, Mitchell. They are a week away.
I can't believe it, man. I'm fired up. And but let's talk about the Bucs because that game tonight that just finalized, Tampa Bay took it to Philly, and Philly's been reeling. I mean, Richard, I can't even think about a team that has fallen this far from grace. I mean, granted, they were 10-1. It wasn't a pretty 10-1, but they lost 6 of their last 7 games. They were battling injuries. Prayers up for our boy Big Play Slay. But Richard, that secondary, I mean, you saw Bradbury getting, missing easy tackles. I mean, Kevin Byard not out of position on the big play by Palmer. What do you attribute this more towards? Is Tampa Bay hot or is Philly just that cold?
Well, it's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of both. Tampa is a veteran team that has had playoff success. There are a lot of guys on this roster that were on that roster that won the Super Bowl. Mitchell, that kind of experience is irreplaceable. It's unmeasurable. You talk about Levante David, Devin White, Jamel Dean was on that team, and Antoine Winfield Jr. was a rookie. Everybody remembers him doing the peace sign to Tyreek.
Yep.
Carlton Davis was on that team. Shaq Barrett was on that team. Will Golston, Vita Vea, Tristan Wirfs was on that team. So all that, they have experience, Mitchell. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans were on that team. So when you have that kind of playoff experience, you don't get rattled by these moments. And Philadelphia has been reeling. Their offense has been predictable. I said it before. I said it about Dallas's offense. You get to these playoffs, they know what you're going to do. So if you've been predictable all season, you've been running plays that guys on the TV can call out, then when you get to these playoffs, you're probably going home because that's not going to get it done. And that's what Brian Johnson and now I guess Matt Patricia in the last 2 years, Mitchell, this is how crazy the league is. This is how insane the league is. Matt Patricia has been not only a head coach in the National Football League, he's been an offensive coordinator. He was an offensive coordinator last year for the New England Patriots, Mitchell. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did. He was terrible.
He was awful at the job. So he's been a head coach, Mitchell. He was awful at the job. He's been an offensive coordinator, Mitchell. He was awful at the job. Now, mid-season, they returned him to where he was with the New England Patriots as a defensive coordinator. And guess what, Mitchell? He was terrible. Mitchell, he was terrible. And so Philadelphia, that's been the difference. The personnel hasn't changed dramatically. There's not many different players, but schematically, things have changed. Shane Steichen is gone. Jonathan Gannon is gone. They are head coaches now. They're doing really good jobs for the team, their respective teams. But the Philadelphia Eagles are missing them. So I would guess next year they will have another set of coordinators, new coordinators, offensive and defensive. But I don't predict the future, but I would imagine. But who would have thought that Baker Mayfield would have a better playoff record than Dak Prescott? Mitchell, how the tides have turned. Mitchell, coming into the year, Baker Mayfield, prove it deal, $4 million. Everybody's like, why did Tampa do that? Now Tampa, with $88 million in dead money, is going to the divisional round, playing your Detroit Lions. Baker Mayfield is probably going to make himself 40, maybe 45 million, depending on how you slice it and dice it. I don't know how they're going to dice it, Mitchell, but he's made himself quite a bit of money.
No doubt. And you know what's funny, Richard? And this is why we got to have our guys, Rory and Goldie, help us out on the back end, because I know that in our season preview, we talked about these Tampa Bay Buccaneers maybe being a surprise team out of this NFC South. And you even said Baker Mayfield has got a lot to prove this year. They're giving him this prove it deal, and he's got a chip on his shoulder. And this guy is a winner at the end of the day. I mean, he might not have the prettiest game. You know, he might not be the prototypical size of a quarterback that you want, but by God, he gets it done, man. And he slings the rock, and they got a very good young running back in Rachaad White. I mean, this guy can get it done in the pass game, good blocker, you know, tough runner. Cade Otton, holy shit, man. I mean, 8 catches for 89 yards. The Lions played Tampa already in Tampa. They beat them handedly. You know, it was a relatively easy game. Like, coming into tonight, I think as a Lions fan, I wanted to see Tampa Bay as our opponent. Mm-hmm. I don't know about that anymore, Rich. I think I would have rather seen Philly. Tampa Bay is one of those teams. They can be. It only takes one, you know, so we shall see what happens. But, Richard, let's move. Let's move a little bit to Buffalo, because they had to move this game from Sunday to Monday because of inclement weather. I don't know why the Buffalo Bills don't just put a new roof on their new stadium they're building, but whatever. I guess Bills Mafia has voiced their opinion, and they're keeping it open. Richard, this is a tale of two teams. This is a tale of two offensive coordinators. After Ken Dorsey left, this team is 6-0. You know, Joe Brady comes in there, and Buffalo looks like a completely new, revamped team. They're running the football, and they're beating teams up physically. Richard, Vegas didn't like Pittsburgh in this game, but Buffalo still runs away with it by 2 scores. Your thoughts on this game and your thoughts on this Buffalo Bills team going forward?
Well, I never thought this was going to be a game, Mitchell. Pittsburgh is working with their third string quarterback. No TJ Watt, who's the best player on their team. I expected them to try to run the ball. You know, that maybe they'd have a chance in the snow to keep it close. Maybe Josh Allen turns the ball over or something, and things can get a little hectic, but that's not what happened. Josh Allen ran the ball well. He threw the ball well. Stephon Diggs had a good game. I think they you know, Dalton Kincaid had a pretty good game. They made some plays on defense. This wasn't exciting. This was probably the least exciting game of the playoffs for me, because it was the most predictable. It's like, oh, okay. Because even if Pittsburgh wins, you're like, Pittsburgh won. Like, they're about to get beat by whoever they're about to play. Baltimore? Right. They're going to beat Baltimore? No, they're not. I don't know. I don't have a ton to say about this game. We expected Buffalo to win. Buffalo won. Now the real test comes with Kansas City coming to Buffalo, because Mitchell, this is what we talked about. Can he beat him? Mitchell?
We did.
Can he slay his dragon? Can he? This is his adversary, Mitchell. He is David, and right now Patrick Mahomes is his Goliath, Mitchell. It's his Goliath, because Patrick Mahomes has been to the mountaintop on this Martin Luther King's Day. He has been to the mountaintop, Mitchell. He has been there multiple times. He has brought home the trophy, brought home the hardware. So can Josh Allen in Buffalo slay this dragon? Can he get over the Patrick Mahomes hump? Because that'll mean something. Because if you tell me Josh Allen has gone through Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson to get to a Super Bowl, Mitchell, that's an earned one. He has earned his way. He has earned his respect. There's not going to be a lot of talk, even with the turnovers. People are not going to have a top 5 list without him. But if Patrick Mahomes sends him home, it'll be hard for him to get back in that conversation, Mitchell, because it's been a long time since that overtime game in Kansas City. There's been a long time, and this is your chance at redemption. You better answer the bell. You're at home this time, Josh. If Josh answers the bell, and they've struggled offensively, we'll see. We'll see what they can do, Mitchell. But I don't know if he can do it.
Let's turn the page to Kansas City. I mean, they took care of business at home against Miami, the fourth coldest game in NFL history. You know something about playing in the cold. Seattle Seahawks, what was it, 2016, Rich? Minnesota against Seahawks, the infamous Blair Walsh shank wide left game.
Yeah, I think
Richard, what's it like? I mean, take everyone through it. What's it like playing in negative degree temperature? I mean, you guys are going sleeveless. I mean, I was outside today. It's 5 degrees here in Detroit. And I mean, I'm fully bundled up. I'm like, dude, there's no way I can even be outside for 3 minutes. Like, tell me, what's going through your head when you guys are playing games in this weather?
I want to give you some great story about how tough I am and how I just grit and determination. Mitchell, when I ran out there and my contact lenses froze onto my eyeballs, I ended my warm-up before I ever started. I turned around and I went back into the locker room. I said, put a visor on my helmet. This is going to be a long day. Then we get into the locker room. We're getting dressed, and we're putting sleeves on and bundling up layers. Okay. Everybody's putting on layers. And Cam's like, no, we're the Legion of Boom. No sleeves. What? The D-line has sleeves. A Legion of Boom, no sleeves. So I put on my arm sleeve. I send a prayer to God, and I go out there, Mitchell. And I tell you this. When I was the corner to my team's sideline, Mitchell, I would be on the heater until the receiver was lined up to play. I'm standing at the heater. I don't give a dang about nobody's talking about you're tough or you're not tough. I'm standing in heat until it's time to snap the ball. Mitchell, I was trying to breathe and my lungs were freezing if I took too deep a breath. So those guys going out there and playing and executing and throwing the ball around the yard like Patrick Mahomes did, they need to be applauded, admired. The worst thing about that is somebody has to lose that game because you feel like you double lost. Because you're like, I just went through all of this just to take a loss and go home and pack my stuff. Probably got frostbite on my pinky toe. Oh, Mitchell, I wouldn't do it again. I've never wanted to quit in a football game outside of that game. I wanted to quit 2 plays in, and I didn't. I finished it.
Well, it looked like the Miami Dolphins wanted to quit, man. And that's what going into the game, they were talking about them consulting their friends up in the CFL and saying it's mind over matter. You got to keep your core warm, keep moving on the sidelines, et cetera, et cetera. And you just don't want to complain about the cold. But my goodness, it looked like Kansas City wanted to be out there, and it looked like Miami wanted to be in the beach on South Beach, man. Tua, 20 of 39, doesn't hit 200 yards. Tyreek, an underwhelming 62 yards, 50 plus of it was on a touchdown throw. What do you make before we get into Kansas City? Tua's eligible for an extension. He's had his history of injuries. Richard, what are you doing if you're the Dolphins? Are you paying the man?
Mitchell, you got one or two choices. You either trade him and hope somebody gives you what you think his value is, which is, you hope to get a first rounder, which I doubt somebody will send you because he's not going to fit everybody's system. Or you pay him and you go on and you got your franchise quarterback, Mitchell. I think that's what you do. I think taking a step back right now, you got Mike McDaniel. You know Tua's your guy. You got to pay him the money. That's the going rate. If Daniel Jones is getting 40+ million, Mitchell, all bets are off. I expect Baker Mayfield to get that kind of money. I expect Tua Tagovailoa to get a lot more than that. It is what it is, Mitchell, at this point in time. That's the going rate for quarterbacks. He should get his money. He didn't play well in the cold. Neither did anybody else. At the end of the day, their season was over when they lost to Buffalo. You lost the division in Buffalo. You made your life harder than it had to be. That's what you get. But in terms of paying Tua Tagovailoa, I think that would be the best decision they can make.
Well, the Dolphins with this loss now own the NFL's record for longest active streak without a playoff win. Haven't won since 2000. Let's go Lions, dude. Setting a new, getting out of
there. Getting off the bottom.
Yes, sir. Yeah, but let's talk about the Chiefs because Patrick Mahomes candidly looked like Patrick Mahomes. This was his game, right? I mean, Richard, they dominated start to finish. Rashee Rice, I mean, he finally might have a guy right outside of Kelsey. This guy's starting to take over games. Looks like a very, very good rookie. Richard, let's just get right into it because the Chiefs are going to play the Bills. Talk to me about this matchup. Like, what do you think? Is this going to be Mahomes' another famous run through the playoffs, this time going on the road?
Mitchell, I feel like I say it every year. If he does it this year, I don't know what else you can say. I really don't. I don't know what else you can say about him. If he goes through Josh Allen, he goes through Lamar Jackson, and he goes through what has to be the San Francisco 49ers or Jared Goff, then Mitchell, he's earned it again. And he is the top of the food chain. He is the apex predator. There is no debate about that. We can only debate who's the second best quarterback in the National Football League, because he is the best, and it's going away. But I'm not sure they're going to do that this year. I think Baltimore is too dominant. I think they're too good defensively. I think they're too good offensively. They're gonna have a hard time going to Baltimore and figuring that out. But I do think they can overcome Josh Allen. I think you're right. He has a guy in Rashee Rice. Isaiah Pacheco is a workhorse, and he doesn't seem to be affected by the weather. He doesn't seem to care. Hot, cold, on the moon, in the desert, underwater, in Atlantis. He's going to run that rock, and he's going to run the ball hard, and he's going to cause problems for your defense. I think on the other side, Josh Allen, he's going to do everything he can to will this team, but Spags is going to have a plan for Josh. He has had a plan in the past for Josh, and I think he's going to put pressure on him. Snead looked like an all-pro against Tyreek. He'll have a good game. They'll put him against Stephon Diggs now. I'm sure he'll do his best against him. Shakur, who's been fantastic in these playoffs, they're going to have a plan for him. Chris Jones only had a half a sack in this game. George Karlaftis had a sack and a half. I expect them to get added pressure on the Josh Allen. They're going to hit him over and over and over. I think the Chiefs win this game, but that's just my early predictions. Maybe I can be convinced later on that it changes, but that's where I'm at right now.
One thing's for sure. I mean, they're good in cold weather. They're going to be going up to Buffalo. They had their crash course test in KC in the cold weather. I don't think it's going to bother them much playing up in Buffalo. We'll see what happens. Richard, the fairy tale season, the comeback kid himself, Joe Flacco. The run comes to an end, and it comes to an end in a whomping fashion. CJ Stroud. This guy is playing like he's a 10-year vet out there. No fear, Richard. Houston obliterates the Cleveland Browns 45-10. What are your thoughts on this Houston Texan team? Because they looked very impressive.
When one building and story comes crashing down and crumbling and burns to a crisp, Mitch, something has to come from the ashes. And what came from the ashes was the stardom of C.J. Stroud, a top 5 quarterback. Just like Jordan Love made his statement and arrival onto the scene, C.J. Stroud did the same thing. And he said, hey, y'all better look out for me in the AFC as well. And now he gets to go against the MVP candidate, Lamar Jackson. He played fantastic in this game, Mitchell. C.J. Stroud is the youngest quarterback ever to win a playoff game. He's going to be the rookie of the year, offensive rookie of the year. You would think it would be Puka Nacua, but when a quarterback's playing this well and gets his team to the playoffs with a rookie head coach, he's getting an award. I'm sorry. Joe Flacco, deserves a tip of the cap, a ton of respect for what he was able to do down the stretch for the Browns, get them in a position they were in, but they were overachieving, and it was still a cool story. Good for Flacco, got off the couch, had a fun run. Cool. Enjoyed it. Good job. David Njoku, I'm sure he's going to be asking for him back because he turned into a Pro Bowler when Flacco got there. But Devin Singletary found some running room in this game. Steven Nelson had the pick six. Derek Stingley, we talked about these foundational pieces. I feel like I do it every week because this team's going to be special. I think they got the fourth most cap space going into next season, Mitchell.
Wild.
And you talk about free agents wanting to go to income tax free Houston, Mitchell, where you can buy a house for $500,000 and have you a couple acres and maybe a mule. Mitchell, there are going to be free agents that go there. Receivers, O-linemen, Laramie Tunsil is there, great left tackle. Running backs are probably going to want to go there. Defensive players are going to want to play for DeMeco Ryans. He's that kind of coach. Derek Stingley Jr. is playing elite football. He's tracking the ball. He's causing a lot of problems. Will Harris Jr. looks like he's going to be the real deal. Got him another sack in this game. Brevin Jordan only had one catch, but it was 476 yards, and you got to see his athleticism. And then Nico Collins, 6 for 96 and a touchdown. He's looking like a guy, Mitchell. He's looking like a top 10 receiver, and he's going to get in that conversation. And too bad Tank Dell isn't available right now, because if he was, it'd be very interesting this week. It's going to be an interesting game. I think Baltimore wins it, but I think, C.J. Stroud and the guys can make it fun early, but Baltimore just has too much talent. Mike McDaniel is doing too much defensively. They have a great scheme. Offensively, they're doing too much. Lamar is going to be too much. They're running the ball well. But, man, has this been fun to watch in Houston.
So you think it's over next weekend? You think this fairy tale ride ends in Baltimore? Or, Richard, we just already talked about it. C.J. Stroud's a young kid, rookie. He hasn't been in this environment. He's got nothing to lose. He's carrying the team on his back, Rich. You think he goes in there? Hey, let me paint a picture for you. Before Dallas Cowboys game this weekend, I asked you one simple question. If the Green Bay Packers are to win this game, how are they going to do it? I'm going to ask you the same question. If the Houston Texans are to win this game, shock the world, how are they going to do it?
That's a good question, Mitchell. That's a really good question. They're going to have to shorten the game, Mitchell. They're going to have to shorten it. They're going to have to shorten the game. It's going to have to be a very short game. And what I mean by that is both teams are going to run the ball. And they're going to have some success. But then they got to get stops in the red zone. They got to let Baltimore run it, and they got to get stops in the red zone. That's very difficult to do when Lamar Jackson's the quarterback of the opposing team, but you got to do it if you want to win this game. They got to get at least 3 turnovers, Mitchell. 3 turnovers. Okay. They have to get them to turn the ball over. It can be an interception. It can be a fumble. It can be special teams, but they have to give themselves 3 extra possessions. You know what they got to do with those possessions, Mitchell? They got to run the ball. They got to shorten the game. And when they get in the red zone, they got to do the opposite of what I said. They have to score touchdowns. They have, by any means necessary, may have to go for it on 4th down, but they have to score touchdowns. That's the only way. That is the only way I have them winning this game, which is kind of, it's kind of a pipe dream right now because Baltimore doesn't turn the ball over very often. They run the ball well, so that's not crazy, but their defense and Houston's going to have to not turn the ball over. They're going to have to pretty much play a perfect game offensively. If you want to bomb them, if Nico Collins can get down the field and they can protect C.J. Stroud, maybe 1 or 2, but we got to run the ball. Even if you're having success in the pass game, it's not where you want to live because this defense is eventually they are amongst the league leaders in sacks for a reason, and they're eventually going to get home and they're going to cause chaos. And it may be Justin Matabike, it may be Jadeveon Clowney, I don't know who it's going to be, but it's going to be somebody getting home. So you gotta shorten this game. That's their only way of winning, but I think Baltimore still comes away with this one, Mitchell. I don't think Baltimore is going to give this game away.
All right, let's take it to your San Francisco 49ers. We need to talk about them. They finally get to play next week, and they're going to play against the surprising, shocking of the world, the Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love. Richard, it's a 10-point Vegas line, but this Green Bay Packer team, you want to talk about a team playing with nothing to lose. I mean, this is the youngest team to make the playoffs in I don't know how many years. Is it NFL history? I don't even know what it is.
I believe it's the history, Mitchell.
I mean, this team doesn't know any better. Richard, walk me through this matchup. Who do you like in this game and why?
Mitchell, I like the San Francisco 49ers for a number of reasons. One of them being Eric Armstead is healthy. He's playing in this game. Nicholas John Bosa, Chase Young, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, et cetera, Charvarius Ward, Tayshaun Gibson, Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey, et cetera. I think they have all the tools in the world to win this game. They have to show up. They have to play with energy. They have to execute early on. They have to find a way. This young Green Bay team is really hot. They cannot turn the ball over. They cannot give this team hope. They have to stomp the fire out early. I think that if Green Bay gets the ball first, if they get a chance to get the ball first, they're going to do the same thing they did against Dallas. They're going to take the ball. They're going to receive it. They're not going to defer to the second half. I know if Kyle gets the option, he's going to defer. So I would guess Green Bay is going to get the ball first. They have to get a stop that drive. They have to quell any thoughts that Green Bay has that this is going to be just like what they did against Dallas. If they can do that and control the game, control the tempo, this will be it won't be an easy win, but it'll be a win. It'll be a win where, hey, they made the right decisions. They kicked the ball. They kicked field goals when they had to. They scored the ball when they had to. They got stops when they had to, probably get an interception or two, and they walk away with the win. And you still walk away impressed with Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers and what they've been able to accomplish later in the season. And you go into next season with very high expectations for them and what they were able to do to your Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving. And you give them a lot of respect and you tip their cap, and then you say, see you in San Francisco, Detroit.
So we got the 49ers. I think you just alluded to it, but are you taking the Lions over the Bucs here?
I'm going to take them for now, Mitchell. My mind may change midweek because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, I talked about all their championship experience. Baker Mayfield is a gunslinger. I don't know, Mitchell, a puncher's chance?
We shall see, my friend. Well, Richard, this concludes Wild Card Weekend. It's been a wild card weekend. I will let you sign us off.
Well, we appreciate you guys joining us. It's the playoffs. It's Wild Card Weekend. Every team at home protected their home field except the Dallas Cowboys. Unfortunately for you Dallas Cowboys fans, get them next year. But for everybody else in Tampa Bay, in Detroit, Michigan, in San Francisco, and in Green Bay for the NFC, we'll see you next week. And for the AFC, Baltimore, Houston, Buffalo, and Kansas City. Can't wait.